So this weekend we've got Barrios versus Ryan Garcia for the WBC Welterweight World Championship. And honestly, this is a fight that I really haven't talked about much because it's a fight that's really not interesting to me. It's not a fight with two super high level guys. Yes, they're two guys fighting for a world championship, but in my eyes, they're not world caliber boxers. You see Barrios, you look at his resume, you see a guy who lost to one of the best lightweights in the world in Tank and one of the best welterweights in the world in Keith Thurman. And then, other than that, the only good win on his resume is a Dennis Ugas win and then a draw over Manny Pacquiao. Now, then you compare that to Ryan Garcia's resume, which is even worse, where Ryan Garcia's got basically no really good wins, other than maybe Oscar Duarte, who's going to be fighting Richardson Hitchens for a world championship. Other than Oscar Duarte, he lost to Tank. Again, one of the best lightweights, to be fair. He lost to Tank, but that wasn't for a world title. And he lost to Rolly Romero, who sucks, at welterweight. So, these two guys that really aren't amazing, aren't at the level. Like, they've fought guys who are at that level and they've lost, right? But somehow through the weird world of boxing, the weird, wonderful world of boxing, these two find themselves fighting each other for a welterweight world championship in 2026 in a short period of time, in only a few days' time. But like I said, it's a fight that I've really not talked about too much because, again, it's not really super compelling to me. There's a part of me that wants Ryan Garcia to win so they can run it back with Devin Haney at welterweight. That's a huge fight. That's undoubtedly one of the biggest money fights in all of boxing in 2026 if they can make that rematch happen. But if Ryan Garcia can't beat Barrios, that fight doesn't happen, right? Because if Ryan Garcia loses to Barrios after losing to Rolly Romero, then that Devin Haney rematch probably never happens, if we're being honest. Because Devin Haney already is on to bigger and better things. Since that fight, Devin Haney went up to 140 and then went up to 147 and became world champion at 147. He doesn't need Ryan Garcia anymore. Never did need Ryan Garcia if we have it right. He never actually did need Ryan Garcia. He was undisputed at 135. Let's not forget that. Devin Haney was the guy at 135. And he's now world champion at 147. Let's not forget that. But, yeah, of course, you've got Barrios, who, like I said, he's got a good win over your Dennis Ugas. That is a really good win. Your Dennis Ugas is no scrub. Yes, he was probably a bit old. Yes, he was on the wrong end of his career. But Ugas is a guy with a ton of experience, been in there with a ton of world-level guys, beat some of them, lost to most of them, to be fair. But he's proved to be tricky and he's hard to hit. He can provide difficult sort of problems to a lot of guys. And Barrios was able to beat Ugas. Then he draws to Manny Pacquiao. And the Manny Pacquiao at this point, He looked decent because he was against Barrios, who was allowing him to look decent. Barrios wasn't pushing the pace. He wasn't trying to close the distance. He wasn't trying to even make Pacquiao work, really. He was just letting Pacquiao go. And even a Manny Pacquiao at this point in his career, at this age, if you just let him go, he can go, right? If you're a younger guy, apply some pressure to Manny Pacquiao. Put some punches on him, test that chin, test his body. You got to try and push him. Barrios didn't do that at all. Barrios was very passive in that fight. And if he's passive against Ryan Garcia, well, if we're looking at it, the fight against Devin Haney was a no contest. You're looking at Rolly v Ryan Garcia was his last fight. Even a passive Mario Barrios probably beats that version of Ryan Garcia because that version of Ryan Garcia absolutely sucks. If you're losing to Rolly Romero, you suck. I'm sorry. If you're losing to Rolly Romero, you suck. At 147 as well, you suck, bro. Come on. You're not levels, bro. You're not levels. At least Barrios didn't lose to Pacquiao. At least Barrios was able to take some rounds of Pacquiao, and it was a competitive fight. It was far from a shutout. Right, but Rolly pretty much shut out Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia did nothing in that fight. So if we see the Ryan Garcia that fought Rolly Romero, which from what we're hearing from Ryan Garcia won't be the case, because from this point of view, it seems like Ryan Garcia is taking the preparation a lot more serious and he's dedicated his life to it a bit more. But then again, we're seeing him on streams and podcasts everywhere. He can't be that dedicated to the game. Whereas Barrios, he's nowhere near as big of a name, so he's not going to be doing podcasts and streams and interviews and all these things because the media appetite for him is not really there. But there's a part of me that thinks Barrios can basically control the chaos of Ryan Garcia and do what Rolly did to him and shut him down and never let him get comfortable and take rounds of him that way. But there's also the version of Ryan Garcia that has got a monstrous left hook and has got power in his hands. And if he can put his hands together and not just rely on one singular shot to get Barrios out of there or to get the respect of Barrios, then and utilize all of his offensive weapons. And granted, he hasn't got a ton. The only offensive weapon he's really got is that left hook. But if he can utilize that left hook effectively, then there is a path to victory for him there. Because Barrios, he's beatable. Barrios is beatable. Beat by Tank, beat by Keith Thurman. Granted, Ryan Garcia's not on the level of those guys though. But there is paths to victory for Ryan Garcia there. And of course, if Ryan Garcia can beat Barrios, then he's lined up perfectly for that Devin Haney rematch. And equally for Barrios, if he can beat Ryan Garcia, then maybe there's the Conor Benn fight. Maybe there's that fight with Devin Haney. No doubt there'll be a lot of guys, and even after the Pacquiao fight, a lot of guys calling out Barrios because they see him as a weak champion, and rightfully so. But I do want to pick Ryan Garcia for this fight, but it's hard because I see paths to victory for both guys. There's a part of me that wants to pick Ryan Garcia because it sets up for that Devin Haney rematch, even though I actually think Barrios might be the better boxer. I want to go with Barrios. I struggle to see Ryan Garcia losing but it's two world title fights and he's not at the level. So maybe Barrios can beat him. And I think Barrios has, for the most part, generally throughout his career, probably been in there with a higher caliber of opponent. Definitely been in there with a higher caliber of opponent as well. But yeah, I may even go with a cheeky Barrios decision win. Damn. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Who do you think is going to win this fight? Do you think Garcia could win this and become WBC World Welterweight Champion? Or do you think Barrios will retain his championship? Let me know in the comments below. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag. And I'm out. Peace.